Hello, it's an exciting game that I have for you today. It's the game number 12 in the Gukesh Liren World Championship match. So there's only 2 games left, and if it's gonna be even, then it's gonna be playoff. And the score is 6-6 now because, as you can see here, Ding Liren won the game today, and it was interesting choice here by Gukesh, especially because White was playing this system here, like a Reti or English system, and Black decided to play the principal move. In the last game, Ding himself played this d4, and this is, like, objectively it's correct to take terrain, but it allows White to play a modern, like a Benoni type of play and structure, which is quite double-edged. So here a safer move for Ding would be either just to play normal stuff, maybe this and castle, or maybe take here is also possible. And this, I believe this is known as something like this. Could be some kind of Reti or Catalan, or use normal here, castle, see what happens. Maybe it could transpose to this could become the Catalan opening here. I believe this is what White wants to play, but White didn't want to play the normal Catalan because there is this check on b4 that could be annoying sometimes. So that's why White chose this move order, but of course it allows Black to play like this. And here, also interesting that Black did not play c5. Yesterday, Ding Liren played setup like this, knight here. This gives White the possibility to go to the modern Benoni by playing like this, or maybe do a Benko gambit with something like this. It would also be an interesting game. It would be fine for Black, but it would be a sharp game. So Gukesh only needed 3 draws to win the match. So it would make a bit more sense for him to play a little bit more safe. So here he also played. Here he played a move that I was a little bit surprised by. He took on e3 here. It looked a little bit better for him to play maybe e5 or castle here. Often you don't want to give up the center like this, so it's a possible way to play like he did, but and maybe it's the safer one, but it's not the most principled way in my opinion. If he wants to play the structure in the game, maybe just castling, and then, like, let's say something like this. Here he could have achieved like the game, a bit like the game, but I don't know if he would win or lose a tempo compared to the game. But there is one big advantage for him now, and it's that he exchanged this knight, because this knight on c6, it's good for Black to exchange this knight for the one on f3, because he can play c3 now, and this bishop here will get restricted. So I think this is a much better way for Black to play than the game, just because he can take on d4 with the knight and trade the knight basically. Another way was to play this move. I watched some commentators, they say that maybe he didn't want to play this because White could play like this, but you can see that the computer dislikes this a lot. This would be like the old Benoni. But if White would like to play like this, then for sure White could play just like play like this, and he would win a tempo. So I don't think this e4 was on White's plan really. But anyway, Black took here. Another disadvantage with this is that it allows Black to take towards the center like this, which also is which I also like for White. It opens the f file, and something like this looks very promising for white, in my opinion. This looks like an interesting way to play for white. But he decided to take with the bishop. It's fine. But this is definitely worse for black to have this knight and this knight still on the board, in my opinion, because you want to restrict this bishop with c6 basically. So here, first thing, Liren fought a very long time. He fought like 1 hour here, and then Gukesh also fought like an hour. So both players played way too slow here, and because they did that, the quality in the end of the game was quite poor, in my opinion. There were quite many mistakes in the end part of the game. But this time it wasn't Liren who made the mistakes. It was Gukesh who played poorly in the end of the game, and it was a lot because of bad time management. They played very slow here, and they didn't play any like forcing move. They only played like fine moves but pretty pointless moves here. For example, Rook e1, h6, a3, a5, h3. Here, king h2. Like white is playing without a plan, and there is this saying in chess that it's better to have a bad plan than no plan at all. So here, both players had no plan at all, so it was fine. But if one player had a plan, then he would probably take control of the game here. But instead, both players had no plan. So one problem for white here is that, like, he will do this later, but this is like the principal move that white wants to play. But it allows black to do this trading of the knights that he wants to do. He wants to trade these knights, and this position is relatively equal, and it's also quite an easy position to play for black. So that's why white doesn't want to do that. So they are playing planless moves here, and as you can see, the computer likes to play this one to change the position for black here. Let's see what could happen. Something like this. It also looks like the knight is going to b5 all the time, so maybe this a5 move for black, it's a typical move sometimes, but because it gave white this square, maybe it wasn't the best. So for example, here, if he does like this, then at least this knight is fine here, but this also looks relatively safe for black. And if he does like this one, then there is apparently some ways to get counterplay here. This doesn't work because of this. I'm winning the pawn, and if he does like this, then either he can do this one and then take here, or there is apparently some tactical problems here also for black. But just this one looks like a solid way to play for black. The only problem is this a5 move. You kind of want that pawn on a6 instead. But he didn't do that, and he made random moves. So let's see what happens here. So this knight maneuver, the computer didn't like that very much. Looked more normal, maybe just to play bishop here and maybe queen here and rook here. Something like that looks better, because it's understandable that black thought, like, I just can't play like planlessly. I have to get some kind of a plan. So he tries to move his knight here, which it makes some sense, but he didn't do that in the game. So here, for example, if he did that one, then he should have gone here, I think. And then it's normal to play d4 here. And then, like, if he goes in, and this could be quite complicated here. Could be some kind of exchange sacrifice for white here. As you can see, the computer thinks that moving the rook something like this maybe probably doesn't give white so much to play passively, but he has some interesting exchange sacrifices here. For example, this here. And there is some kind of tactical problems. For example, this. And white has some nice play here on the queen side for the exchange. Another interesting. So this is the kind of moves that the players were thinking about probably. Also, as we can see, d5. Maybe, I don't know. Something like this would also be an interesting exchange sacrifice. Black's pieces are quite passive here, and white's pieces are very dominant, and he will get this pawn also. So he will get 2 pawns, so that's why he didn't do that probably. And if he would take here something like this would be okay for black, I think. But there is this move with some tactical problems here for black. So black would like to do something like this and put the knight here, but as you can see, the computer is not so impressed for tactical reasons here. So it was like positionally the black's play is fine, but maybe the tactical it doesn't really work so good, because when the centers opens, the rook will go on the same file as the black queen. So let's see what happens. He played there. That looks fine. So he did this now, and white basically can't do more improvements to his positions. It's correct to open with the d4, and black's played a few moves that was not so good, and one big problem was this move here, a5. The more I look at this game, it looks like this was like a positional mistake. So maybe he didn't understand here that if he plays a5, I will get this strong square for my knight. So looks like this. It would have been better for black to maybe allow b5 and b4 and b5, because he could always go in here and try to trade with knights with this sometimes. So yeah, it's hard to say exactly what was best, but it's clear now with d4 here that white's pieces are perfectly placed, and this piece is in a bad place. It was regrouping to c5, but he never did it. So here he basically have to do e4, taking here. There is another problem now that he can do this, and this one is just being threatened here. And if he defends it, then black's pieces are just it doesn't really work tactically. White's pieces are perfectly placed for this opening of the center. So it shows how dangerous it was for black to play planlessly. So white did knight e1 here. It was a nice move. Computer liked it. Has to do that basically, but it can always regroup later. So he played knight b6 here. Often there is a saying like it's always bad to have the knights on b6 and b3. So here it got bad. Yeah, it was a bad position for the knight also. So probably would have been better actually to go back. It looks better on f6. Here the computer wants to try f5 to maybe get some stability here. They played like this. So they went back and forth with the queen, but it's fine. Now Gukesh tries this move, tries to maybe go here, but it's a little bit. It's also a little bit wrong, because there is just no and not enough pieces here, and the knight here, it just doesn't threaten anything. Like this could be good in the opening in some positions when the rook is here and bishop is here, then it threatens something. But now it's just it's not a correct maneuver. So a4 is fine, but it's just not. This knight maneuver is nothing right now. So the computer still likes it a bit, but he did this a trade bishops. The computer did not like that because if he wanted to play this maneuver, he should have played it right now, because white got a chance to block now. But as you can see, the computer thinks this doesn't work really because of these tactics and winning a pawn here. So I guess that's why here computer wants to strengthen with f5 to not allow tactics against the e4 pawn. So this was probably the correct way to play for black, to strengthen here. So black tries to trade bishops, but white can just block it. And it threatens to take here and win the pawn. If he goes back, then this is apparently fine. And here, so black cannot play this because of this fork. That means that he has to do something else, for example here. Now this pawn. So this a5 was also a mistake. Like it just made this pawn weak. It would have been safer on a5. It just lost the pawn here. So that's why he took here. Now this pawn is attacked, so he defends it. And now when the bishop is traded, he can just normal move here to step out of this diagonal. So e3 is never a tactical shot. So here computer likes this one. It sees that this is a threat, so he can at least go here. But he was going backwards. That's never a good sign if you go back to the starting. If you're like setting up the pieces for the next game, as they say, it's never a good sign. And it also blunders this knight a7, which I guess both players probably missed actually, because it just wins an exchange. So I guess actually both players missed that. It's an unusual tactic. So he did like this instead, and now Gukesh saw it, so he moved the queen, so he can. Knight a7 is now not winning an exchange anymore. So d6 here is good. He can't take it because the fork, so has to move this one, and he goes in like this instead. So now these dark squared weaknesses with the passed pawn is just winning for white. So and he's also winning a pawn on e4. Yeah, lots of ways to win, but he plays fine, I think, to go back like this. So the computer, instead of going back, it likes a little bit more to go forward, but it's still this is just it just threatens nothing there. Sometimes it's good to put a knight here, but not when all the pieces already are out. So, and here of course white is just winning here, and Ding does it quite well. So here, for example, there is a tactical shot here that was pointed out by the commentators, because it's impossible to like prevent this one here. For example, it threatens to take and get a new queen and mate, and if it does like this, it's just new queen and your rook up. So Ding missed that, of course. They were a little bit low on time, but still it's a little bit it also shows that Ding is not very tactically good. He missed this one. He missed knight a7. It's yeah. He still played a nice game, so you can't be too critical. And this also wins, of course, because now it again threatens this one, and when the queen takes here, he will just take the rook, and we will be a rook up. So he plays this one, and here Ding finds a nice checkmate here. It takes here. The point is take, and a new queen, and it will be a checkmate here in 5, as you see. So very nice, interesting game. The main things to take away was that like both players played slow and they played planlessly here in the middle game here. It would have been, they fought 1 hour each, and one would think of 2 hours that they would like understand like enough like what's the correct plans in the positions like. So because here they played like 10 moves quite planlessly, and the computer doesn't say so, but this a5 looked like quite a, at least as the game turned out, it turned out to be a serious positional error, because this knight b5, it was just a very annoying knight for black, and it made so white had got an edge, because what will happen sometimes is that white will play d4 and trade, and then this knight it will just be annoying for black to defend the queen side. And here, this move here, the e3, it would definitely have been better, in my opinion, to play maybe castle here and like go for something like this, because here these knights are exchanged. Black can play this one and e5, for example. Here e5, something, an endgame like this is just, this is the best black can hope for. Like this endgame should be possible to hold for black. And as the game went here players started to play planlessly, and there was also, I think Gukesh underestimated that once white had played this move, put the knight here on the strong position, put the rook next to the queen, actually black's queen was in a lot of problems in the game, because there was always threatening about opening the center, and the rook was hitting the queen, and it was not safe anywhere. For example, on c8, sometimes this knight a7 was possible. So what he should have done like a lot sooner, he should have realized that, and maybe put the bishop here, maybe queen here, something like that, and maybe rook here, and maybe, yeah, I don't know. He should have found some setup to do that, basically. Or here he should try to change the position. Now when white played the queen here, it was possible for black to change the position. For example, this looks like a position that looks fine for black, in my opinion. Looks like a fine position for black. So those was the main things, and then here in the middle game he should probably have defended this pawn here. When he didn't do that, it was probably lost now. It was hard for him to get any kind of play, and this he tried with this a4, but this pawn could just get lost after c5, so it was not positional, very good game by Ding, but not so good for Gukesh. And there will be two very interesting games now to finish the match. And if it's equal, there will be rapid tie breaks and then blitz tie breaks. A lot of the World Championship matches, nearly all of them, for example, Carlsen against Kayakin, Carlsen against Caruana, and Ding against Nepo, all of those has been decided in the tie break. So lots of maybe this also will go to tie breaks, because I think unfortunately, that in the last two games that both players will play quite passively. So I kind of expect 2 quick draws and then tie break. So that's my guess. Okay, so see you next video.